I didn't know what to do with myself. And I was not a victim. I knew what I was doing. And so I just went crazy. I eventually found myself 4 years later burnt out and despairing of life due to just spinning out. Substance abuse, all just spinning out. And I remember laying in bed and thinking, what am I going to do? It felt as if my soul had shriveled down to a little, like the smallest possible thing you can imagine. I just felt empty. And I remembered that one of the Gideons, Gideon's ministry, where they hand out Bibles and stuff like that. One of the Gideons had been standing in front of one of our college buildings, our science building, and he had handed me a little Bible just a few weeks earlier, and I put it in my dresser, and so I went and I got the Bible, and I started reading it. And it was like water pouring into my soul, light after being in darkness for years. And it was just amazing. God was gracious to me and granted me a sense of himself in that moment. So,
thank you. Father, coolest Bible story and
I have to be personal. Oh,
I know.
No, my favorite Bible story is in it's beginning of John's Gospel. I don't remember if it's the end of chapter 1 or the beginning of chapter 2. I'm a Catholic. I'm not expected to know these things. But, so a lot of people kind of get used to the idea that Jesus' disciples just like him. They're like, oh, they're Team Jesus right away. Actually, that's not how it works. And my favorite one that really speaks to me is the call of Nathaniel. So they come up to Nathaniel, the other ones, and they're like, hey, we found...
End of one.
End of one. They come up to Nathaniel and they say, hey, we found the Christ. And he says, oh yeah? What good comes out of Nazareth? Right? Nazareth was the Pike County of the Holy Land. But it wasn't a great place. And I'm always fascinated by that, right? And then what does Jesus say when he comes up to him? He says, I saw you sitting under the fig tree, and here is a true son of Israel, and there is no guile in him. That Christ, Nathaniel has a hard time with Jesus. He's not all in right away. He's kind of cynical. He's a smart guy. He's not quick to believe. And that speaks to my experience. I never had a wild life. I entered seminary when I was 17. I was the one kid in my friend group who wasn't into porn and drugs and all that. I went to church every week and multiple times during the week. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I thought it was true, and I thought that it was what Jesus was calling. In seminary in Rome, I was called lots of names. Luther was one name I was called. Young Nietzsche was another one. These are priests who were picked by the Pope to be allowed to teach us from the Pope, and I would call them out and say like false or not true, and that we'd have back and forth. But I remember this one guy came up to me one time at the end of one of these little debates, and he wrote that Bible verse on a little card. Behold, the true Son of Israel, there is no guile in him. And I love the way that story ends with Nathaniel and Jesus. Jesus comes and says, I saw you under the fig tree, which sort of means like, I see everything that you've been hoping for. I see everything that you're looking for in the Messiah. I get all of the stuff about why you wouldn't want to follow me. And immediately, that encounter with Jesus, it changes Nathaniel, and it makes him an apostle. Nathaniel loses his life for Christ, preaching the gospel. And I just feel like that gives me a lot of hope, where I don't have the pastor voice. I'm not I don't have all these great experiences of God, but I try to be faithful. I love him. I follow his church. I stick with his friends, even when I don't like what they do, because I want to be that true son of Israel. And it gives me a lot of hope for my own ministry and my own connection to Christ, that Christ calls people like that.
So of the 2.4 billion people that claim to be Christian, the wide variety tonight, the diversity we show is pretty limited. We haven't shown any non-American voice to the church, but this is a little glimpse into the depth and the variety of the church. One of the things I hope that you've experienced tonight is that there are various ideas and opinions that should never call you to say, well, none of it's true then. I hope that's a real invitation for you to have your own sense of, like, I'm going to find out. Like, I'm going to dive in because this is something that really, really matters. This is the instrument, the movement that has changed the world. And literally, you're sitting in a building receiving an education because people took the Bible and took Jesus very serious. So don't push it off, because you are literally a product of something in the benefit of the church. So I would invite you to really think more deeply and kind of press in those moments when you say, something doesn't check out for me. Don't check out, lean in. Here are some people who have deeply committed their lives. A sister for 60 years of faithfulness, thank you. For the commitment, Jay and Rob, for what you're doing. I've learned a few things tonight. I've called forth to think about people with these horrible practical issues right now. $18 food stamps and toothaches. To a deep desire of loving the church. And loving the Bible so much that you get into those issues of, I'm never going to see the rain the same again, right? Issues that matter, and truth that matters. So would you join with me in thanking our panelists tonight?